It's time!
Strap yourself in,
because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts. Your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
And now, here's your host.
Right, Chris.
All right, welcome along. Good evening, one and all. How are we all doing? Brighton at the weekend. We will be talking about this more in the show later because at 9 o'clock we have got the Q&A show. Basically, it's a question time show. It's where you guys in the chat decide the agenda of the show. We have one question that we will start with, and it will probably be this one. And then it's all over to you guys. But it's just been announced today. I did post it on Facebook and Twitter just a little bit earlier. And it is in The Athletic that PSG could pay UEFA 75 million euros under FFP rules as 4 Premier League sides on the watch list. They've also had to pay an unconditional 10 million, either directly or through revenue earned from involvement in UEFA competitions, with 65 million plus depending on compliance with future targets. Now, it's always been said that UEFA's FFP is a lot more than harder than the Premier League's. And it is looking that way, to be honest with you. It goes on to say Chelsea, Manchester City, Leicester and West Ham were among 19 clubs, which also includes Glasgow Rangers and Barcelona, competing in Europe in 21-22, who only managed to fulfill the financial requirements due to the application of COVID-19 emergency measures. UEFA has said that the CFCB, which I presume is one of their many boards that they have, the CFCB has asked these clubs for additional financial information and says they will be monitored closely. So maybe, just maybe, this is what has been happening at Leicester City. I mean, you know, it's a case of, I suppose, if you get slapped a fine of, you know, or you're pulled over by the police for speeding and says, look, you know, you're doing 31, 32, take this as a warning. You then make sure, well, certainly for next week or so, that you're actually under the limit, don't you? So it is all beginning to make maybe a little bit more sense. I've got to be honest with you. Hi, says Hayden. Welcome to Brendan Circus, says hi, Phil Fox. And hello, Chris, says Ray. Good evening to you all. You're welcome. And David's in as well. Good evening, David. How are you? But we will be talking Leicester City, FFP rules, what we might get fined, etc., all in the 9 o'clock question time show. But this is the Brighton versus Leicester City podcast. We're going to be going through some stats and we're going to get our guests in. How are we feeling about this week's Ends game? I'm as nervous as hell. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Thank you for watching. And if you're on your favourite podcast platform, thank you for lending me your ears. This is where you can find it.
Watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform.
Or ask your smart speaker
To play the podcast Leicester Till I Die. Broadcasting live worldwide.
Indeed. Welcome along. So it is Leicester City travelling down to the south coast to Brighton, trying to get our first 3 points. Brighton, under he who must be admired, Graeme Potter, sat there in fourth. Let's be honest with you, he did all right for them last season. Is this a false dawn for Brighton, or is this the season when we really, really do see them trying to do something? Ray just says they're praying for a loss so we can be rid of Rodgers. You see, I know what you're saying, Ray. I do know what you're saying. But for me, I would never be... I'd never want my club to lose to get rid of a manager. Because if that manager's keeping us up or, getting us draws and wins, well, we're not doing something too bad, are we? And even under Puel... even under, and I go back as far as David Pleat and even Frank McClintock, my God, they were dark days. I'm not going to be one of those that says, oh, when I was a lad, I lived in a cardboard box. But in those days, I'd never wanted my team to lose, Ray. I get how passionate you are, but for me, and it's your opinion, and I respect it, for me, I don't. I don't get that. I wouldn't want that at all. Andrew, hello, Chris. This is going to be controversial, but I think Jamie Vardy needs to hang up his boots as he offered nothing last night. Was it because he wasn't fed very well? Feed the goat and he will score, they always say, and we've not been feeding him very well. Now, to me, get Inacho. Get Inacho on. Play those two up front, because Inacho, he fills that gap between midfield and the striker. But then again, 32,000 people shout that and say that every week, which is Brendan we're talking about, isn't it? Going to be a hard task. It is. Brighton have got off to a good start. Highfield's TalkSport reckon Brendan is deliberately trying to get himself sacked. Funny thing was, I hadn't heard that on TalkSport, but I was actually on Brighton Rock podcast, which is a great podcast, if you want to follow Brighton at all. And the gentleman is actually coming on in a little bit on this channel. I was on his podcast before, and I said exactly the same thing. Because I tell you what, if I was working, which I'm not at the moment, if I know that where I used to work, they used to monitor your social media. And if you ever put anything a little bit iffy up, they would call you in. And Brendan is not using social media, but he's certainly using his interviews. And he's going to cut himself off at the legs. I mean, the guy's short enough already. Hayden, I think Iverson should start. No, okay. I mean, again, Hayden, right? What makes you think that Iverson should start? One game, he saved a couple of penalties. It was Stockport United, for God's sake. 6 from the bottom of League Two, the 4th tier. When Ward was playing in those games, when Schmeichel was number 1, Ward's got us through with a couple of penalty shootouts. So, would Iverson have saved that goal yesterday? I doubt it, because it wasn't Ward's fault. It was the defence. So let's just cut Ward some slack, should we? You know what I mean? And then let's not shout out, of Everson's arse and blow smoke up his bottom. He had one game where he saved a couple of penalties and a shootout against a 4th tier team. He's going to be good. I'm not going to deny that, but he's not there yet by any stroke of the imagination. Get sacked, you get a massive payout. Exactly. If he walks, he doesn't. I know you worked in sales, so you know all types of managers. The manager who are unqualified are masters of throwing people under the bus. Totally, Ray. Totally. And that is, you look at any of his news conferences, he's blaming everybody. The only person Brendan doesn't blame is Brendan. Interestingly enough, Brighton don't get many blips, quite well organised. They certainly are. They're very much similar to Leicester. I don't even think Nacho Odaka is the answer. We need a refresh up front. I mean, don't we need a refresh at the very top, as in Mr. Rodgers? Anyway, let us get on to the facts and figures, and let's take you through some interesting, it might bore the socks off you, but interesting stats before we get our guests in. So, no, we're not playing Man United, and I think the wrong stats have been coming up. Let me just get rid of this. I knew it was going to be one of those nights. I knew it. Right, let's get rid of that. And let's upload. I was a bit late coming on, so I thought I got it all sorted, but we shall see. It's live. It's live. What can we do? What can you? It'll be all right on the night. We'll cut this bit out. It's recorded. Don't worry about it. Let's hope now that if I do this, he's just waiting as my little circle of life goes round in front of me. Here we go. Let's try this again. Yep, you see, there we go. You press a button. There was actually, I saw the other night that the BBC was saying that there was a special on the clitoris on the red button. I couldn't find it. Anyway, no, it's my first one, guys. Let me off. It's my first one, but I have got to give myself. Indeed, I am sorry. Anyway, I'm here all week, much to your disappointment, I'm sure. Anyway, so we've got Brighton 2:00 on Sunday at the Amex Stadium. This is our start and also Brighton's start as well. Brighton have won 3 out of 5, drawn 1 and lost 1. And let's be honest with you, that by any stretch of the imagination, and it is a bit of a funny start for for the Premier League this season. But that is a fantastic start for Brighton. Well done. Ours, I don't know where that green wind's come from. I really, really don't. Maybe they included friendlies. I don't know, in pre-season, but I'm really not sure where they've got that from. This is in more detail, our form. Brighton, great start. 2-1 beating Man United. They got a draw with Newcastle, and Newcastle have proved they're not going to be anybody's mugs this season. They beat, again, a team that was struggling and may well struggle for the rest of the season 2-0, but were, up there with, challenging for Europe last season. They beat Leeds 1-0, and they lost somehow to Fulham 2-1. Don't know what they did there. I think they must have maybe turned up to the wrong ground. But we, of course, got the draw with Brentford after being 2-0 up. Arsenal gave us a footballing lesson. We went 1-0 up against Southampton and heard the Southampton manager state he knew he could still win this game. What does that say about Rodgers? He was out-tacticked by a manager that he put 9 against not so long ago. We lost to Chelsea 2-1, proving we can't even beat 10 men, but somehow Southampton managed it. And, of course, last night we played Manchester United and, well, enough said about that. I think we've covered that. This is Leicester City, where we concede and score goals. As you can see, the green is obviously when we score them. So anytime between just after half-time and the 60th minute is when we seem to like scoring goals. And then, obviously, straight after that, Brendan makes some substitutions. Read into that what you will. Leicester City, we've got an average so far this season, 55% possession, 555 attacks, only 6 offside, 16 shots on target, 40 off, and 21 corners with an average player rating of 6.61. Compare that to Brighton, 49% possession, 519 attacks, 7 offside, 18 shots on target, 41 off, 21 corners, average player rating of 6.64. It could end up a 0-0, this, couldn't it? We did pretty close, pretty cancelling each other out. How we've done against them in the Premier League, I will tell you, seeing as you asked me. I did hear you ask. We've played each other 10 times. We've won 6. Brighton have won 1. That was at home. We've won 3 away and we've drawn 3. Records are there to be broken. I'm not feeling confident. And of course, last season, we only got 1 point off them. They beat us 2-1 at their place, which was at the start of the season before we really knew how bad things were last season. And we got a draw then in January in the return fixture. We'll come on to score predictions a little bit later, but let's get my guests in this evening. Let me just take that out. First of all, let me welcome along. You know him, and I want to thank him very much because he stood in at the last minute yet again. He's usually stood in cow poo when he's outside, but thankfully he's not doing that now, and he's just stood in for Craig, who is otherwise engaged. Brad, thank you very much, young man. How are you?
No worries, mate. Always happy to help if I can. Yeah, I'm well. Considering we're supporting Leicester City.
Yes.
I'm not doing too bad, all things considered. But on a sporting wise, emotional damage is what this club is causing to me right now.
Indeed, indeed. Well, we've obviously got the show at 9 o'clock coming up, which is the question time show, and we'll go through that later. Through what I'm going to say now later. But I don't know if you saw on The Athletic. I did put it up on Twitter, put it up on Facebook. Maybe it is a bit of a light bulb moment when we all go, "Whoa, that's why," because we're being looked at by UEFA for possible. Well, we're not at the moment being done under FFP, but they are going to be monitoring us very closely.
Yeah, great. You know what that means for poor West Ham and Leicester, doesn't it? You step one penny over that budget and it'll be bad Leicester, bad West Ham, bad West Ham. Chelsea, what, 100 million over? Oh, no, sorry, darlings. You go on that way and just go and never sit in the corner. Bad Leicester, bad West Ham, because that's how they treat
You know what I love about you? You always give me something to clip, don't you?
Hey, if nothing else, I'm a clip merchant. You could use that for
But it does kind of explain what's... maybe no, not saying explain it, but it does clear the fog a little bit,
Yeah, it does, and it makes Brendan sound very silly by the way he's come out and attacked the owners, because that should have been handled delicately. I understand his frustrations. I get it. He's frustrated. You make lots of plans to sign 3-4 players. You wanting to get some deadwood out the squad. You're wanting to promote some players, and you're pretty much restricted to near on nothing of that until literally the last 12, 13 hours. Be a bit more delicate. I can understand his frustrations, and I'm not saying what he said wasn't wrong, but we're obviously seeing now with this being brought to light that maybe we now as fans even understand how stressful the situation has been at Leicester. It's not just the players, it's not just the manager, it's the club itself, because with success comes expectation. To bring that expectation to life, you have to spend money in this game.
Yeah,
and to do that, we quite clearly have pushed the boundaries.
We're going to go into it more, like I say, in question time at 9 o'clock. But I think, like I say, it does, as I say, clear the muddy waters just a little bit. We have got a game on Sunday. David says here's a positive. If you flip the table over, you'll be top with 100% record. 95 maybe. It also means that the team we're going to be playing tomorrow will be one place off the relegation zone, which I'm sure he's not happy about. Russell, good evening, sir. How the devil are you?
I'm all right, thanks. I'm worried about this relegation battle now. Oh, no. But yeah, I'm fine, thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Russell, this is Brad. Brad, this is Russell. I don't know if you've met before.
I don't think so, no.
Like I say, so much has gone on, and we were literally talking to him. It's been ages since I've seen you, Russell. I hope you've kept well since we last spoke.
Yeah, it's been some time, minutes, literally minutes, hasn't it, Chris?
Exactly. It's talking to the transfer window, and let's get the big elephant in the room out of the way. I've gone through all the stats, but you had quite a busy window. Just looking at your outgoings here, my God, I'm had to sort of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. I mean, you've released more players than Nottingham Forest have signed.
I was just going to say, we're the inverse of Forest, aren't we? Yeah, a lot of outgoings. Some expected big ones, Basuma. Some less expected big ones, Cucurella, and to an extent Morpay. A lot of the other stuff was youth players that need to get loans out. We've got a really big developing academy, lots of prospects, lots of things going on with that, and part of the model is to get players in and then loan them out for periods at least. And so a lot of those are under 23s, but yes, it's been a busy window, very busy window. Not quite as busy the other way around as we would have liked. We could have done with some striker backup.
Compared to us, you've had a miraculous. You brought 6 players in. None of them on a free either. I mean, Brad, I was talking with Russell literally, like I say, just before this show on his podcast, which is a great podcast, by the way, Brighton Rock. Just shout it out again, Russ. I have put the link in the description below, but very amiss of me not to mention it.
Yes, it's Brighton Rock Podcast and Twitter at Brighton Rock Pod.
No problem. Thank you for that. Brad, I mean, do you see Brighton as, because we said this, Russell and myself, that they are very similar clubs in the way that we operate now?
Yeah, they are. And, it's nice to see teams, making that progression. I said to you, kind of the back of when, you could pinpoint it to maybe when Leicester achieved the title, but it seems to have been a very nice, positive flux with clubs like Leicester, like Brighton, like Wolves to a degree, although they've fallen off a bit this year. But West Ham could conclude in that, where we're not scared of the big six, no matter, even though it's gone horribly for us at the start, we're still not as frightened as playing the big six as fans as we maybe used to. I know, obviously, Russell, you've been a Brighton fan. You weren't in the Premiership in the 90s, but that's what I grew up on. And it was very luxurious if you got a point out of any of the big four clubs back then, let alone, a win here and a draw there. And it just shows you how times have changed. And to see, Brighton, and you could even look at slightly newer clubs in the sense, because Brighton are very well settled into the Premiership now. I'm quite accustomed to them being a part of the fixture release every season and looking when we're going to play each other. But Brentford take the same mentor as well, and it's nice that in a way clubs are finding a way to try and negotiate, if you will, the big six instead of being scared of them. And it's quite impressive to see what's going on there, because like you said, two big names that you lost, one more expecting than the other, and yet you're fourth in the Premiership. It just shows that clubs can more than not dread relegation if they have to sell a couple of players.
Yeah, completely agree with you. Yeah, it's been good. I mean, it was a survival exercise for 2 or 3 years. Yeah, but behind the scenes, there's been this bigger picture plan to get gradually build the resources behind the scenes, the academy, developing that. We've had players come through. We've made a little bit of money from selling players as well, and we've gone about it in a meticulous way. It's taken time. We've had to be patient, but I do think it works. It is a very similar model to Brentford, absolutely. And I think other clubs further down the chain, if you look at teams like Rotherham, even further, much further down, they're in the same boat. They're running themselves in a really efficient manner, and obviously this is all proportional because we're in the Premier League. We've got loads more money than that, but essentially we're only spending what we can afford to. I wouldn't say we're making a profit because it's pretty hard to do that, but we are living within our means, and it shows what can be done. As you said, fourth in the table, and we're not feeling in any degree of anxiety about the drop. For the last 6 months or so, we've been like that. Before that, we've always been looking over our shoulder. You're only one bad run away from getting into trouble, whereas now it feels like, as you said, we feel established in the division now, which is great.
I'm just looking here because you've been in the Premier League. This will be your 6th consecutive season. And just going through them, I mean, your first season you finished 15th. The season after that, 17th. Cut it a bit fine then. The season after that, 15th. The season after that, 16th. And then last season, 9th. So, you're trying to get away. Well, you are getting away from that proverbial sort of, we've got a relegation fight this season.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been steady progress. It takes a while before you break out of that bottom 6 or 7. But it could have been. I think there was quite a few scenarios on the last game of the season. We could have ended up, I think, in 13th if results had gone a certain way. But I think 9th is, I would think, a fair finishing position for us based on the way we played over the season. We had a couple of bad patches, a really long game of not winning a game, but there was loads of draws, most of which we should have won. So that was frustrating. But I think we're starting to solve some of the goal scoring issues, because what we've got is Danny Welbeck back and fit. We've identified what the problem was behind the scenes, which was causing him to get various injuries. He's had an operation for that. He's now had his first pre-season for, I think, 5 years, full pre-season. He's feeling good. He's looking good. We rested him against Fulham, and what happens? That's where the problem is: strength and depth up front. But But
Yeah.
he's what he's done. He's allowed us to create more chances and score more goals from midfield. Pascal Grosch, who's up to 20 goals now in the Premier League, but 3 of those have come in this one season. He's been with us the whole way through, and he's looking like he's going to get his record number for the season.
Yeah.
Other players that we've signed recently, like Mitoma, is going to be a really good player. Sarmiento, who we signed, a young lad, Ecuadorian, unfortunately injured at the moment, but look out for him. And I think we can get goals from various locations elsewhere on the pitch. Graeme likes to play with one striker, and that striker has a role of pretty much being, ironically, a provider almost more than the goal scorer.
There you go. All those people that have been asking for Potter to replace Rodgers. He only likes one up front, the same as Rodgers, guys. So don't get excited. Ray says here, and Ray is very much a Rodgers out fan. He bought Penkovic when he came over, and he never played in one game. Vestergaard, Bertrand are useless. Perez is worth 5 to 10, not 30. In fact, Ray. Just to correct you on that one, that Benkovic was actually here when Rodgers came, because Rodgers actually had him for 2 seasons in the Scottish Premier when he was at Celtic. And the first season, he was literally started for every game that he was fit enough to. It's only when he came down, and I've got to say, this is one thing I'll give Brendan credit for, is that he could have picked him. And we're all saying, why hasn't he picked him? And it just shows that because you can be good in the Premier League, doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be good in the Scottish, in the Premier League. So fair enough. I say that wasn't. You can't blame Brendan for things that happened before he came, as much as I know we all want to. But Benkovic, we couldn't decide, wouldn't work out why he wasn't playing him. But he obviously did not feel he was good enough for the Premier League.
He was used on loan in the Championship. Sorry, Chris, I just wanted to add that. Maybe people need to remember he was also crap on loan in the Championship. You can't even do it at that position. You're not going to get in the Premier League.
But this shows, I agree, Brandon. It shows, like you say, that English, just because you're good enough in Scotland doesn't mean you're going to be in England. Who was that manager we had? Craig Levine, did we become a little bit Scottish under him, and it didn't work out? Not that I've got anything against the Scottish, let me just say that. As long as we beat Hadrian's Wall and keep them on the other side of that, I'm more than happy. Andrew says, nice to see a fan-friendly club mixing it with the Big Four. Hope you do well. And Terry says, evening all. I see Brighton as Leicester's replacement to break into the top 6, and best of luck, Russell. Terry, hi all, please like this video, thank you very much. Ray, my bad, yeah, sorry Ray, I wasn't having a go, I was just pointing it out. It's only fair that we don't blame him for things that he really had nothing to do with. Trossard is very underrated. Everybody, let's talk Graeme Potter before we get on to the teams, because everybody knows that I wasn't Graeme Potter's biggest fan. And last season, you did actually go through, I think it was about March, when you were actually bottom of the prediction of the performance chart.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And you thinking, but he turned it round. And I've still said, everybody's saying Potter for England, all this, that, and the other. And I'm going like, well, what's he done? If he can do, for me, I don't know, we'll see after Brad. We'll come to Brad first. We'll see if you agree with me. If he can do what Moyes has done at West Ham in the previous 2 seasons, and I don't think you're going to finish in the top 4, and that's no disrespect, but there's no reason why he couldn't get you into the top 7, which would be sort of European. I think then, Brad, we'd have to actually, well, even I would have to say, well, maybe this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, well, we talk about managers having defining moments at clubs. For all the stick we give them, we say Klopp and Pep are the only 2 managers out there that show longevity and loyalty in football. It's very, very rarely seen. A manager normally gives himself 3 to 5 and then pisses off to the next project, no matter where he's got to, or he'll go abroad and want to manage elsewhere. And I think now this is where Brighton fans and maybe even Potter himself will be hoping that the next three seasons are successful, but it still goes under the radar because you've got yourself out of that dogged fight of finishing, like you said, 15th, 16th, 17th. And now you're on that next pedestal. You're on that next segment of the journey in the Premier League. You've just finished 9th. And, you might correct me if I'm wrong here, Russell, but I'm sure the majority, at least, of Brighton fans, 10th or higher for the next 2 or 3 seasons would be absolutely brilliant. It's what we wanted in the 90s, Chris, wasn't it? We wanted to build on getting out of that 13th, 14th, getting in the top half. And if he does that and he keeps improving it and it doesn't go stale, then the next thing you know, Graeme Potter's in at 10, 11 years at the club. Not only is he going to become a very well-renowned manager in the Premier League and at Brighton, but I would agree that by that point, you would have no choice but to look at him as the next man for England, because if he keeps improving a team that's getting picked apart already, I think it's really, it happens to the best of us. Unfortunately, our best players get picked from us, and he still keeps progressing Brighton. You're going to end up looking at that manager to want to be the one that takes your nation forward, and I would not be opposed to it if that's what he does over the next coming seasons.
Yeah, a few crazy people aside, everyone loves Graeme. I think he's been doing a great job. He's got bits wrong along the way. He got things wrong against Fulham, to be honest. He wanted to rotate Danny Welbeck out, just give him a break, and unfortunately it coincided with Lallana getting the latest of his injuries and a couple of other bits being shuffled around, and that broke the spell from the first few games. But overall, what he's doing is great. He can change games up 2, 3, 4 times within the game. West Ham away, they had some substitutions planned. Skamaka came on and a couple of other people, and we'd anticipated that. And no sooner are they on the pitch, we put our contingency plan into place. He's very intelligent. I've seen some videos of him talking tactics, with one of those things, shuffling the little discs around on a whiteboard, and the detail he's going into, incredible, absolutely incredible. He's got a degree in emotional intelligence, and he's a guy who clearly is a people person, so he's very good with the players. He's very motivational. The only issue is a little bit limited in the attacking tactics. People have sometimes said he hasn't really got a plan B. Well, he has elsewhere on the pitch, but in attack, we're maybe a little bit limited. How much that is to do with resources, who knows? But I think all Brighton fans are loving this. We've been through hell. You guys will know we lost our ground. We had dodgy owners. It took long enough to get temporary grounds. We were in exile for 2 years, and then we're stuck in basically a localised athletics track for another 12 years. And to finally get that stadium and to be able to fulfil our potential, this is a long journey, but it's going in the right direction for what I hope will be a long time now as well. And absolutely, Brighton fans are looking to do what you said, Brad, just to top 10 year on year. If we can do that, we'd be absolutely delighted. If we happen to pop into Europe one year or more, even better. But yeah, we do see ourselves very, very similar to the path Leicester had those years before, of trying to establish ourselves. As I said on our podcast just beforehand with Chris, that I see us as pretty similar size clubs in terms of fan base, stadium potential overall. Obviously, you guys have got a richer history with having won some major trophies. We haven't. But in terms of, just the general size, we sell out our grounds. We sold it out in the Championship as well, year on year. We've got the potential to step on. And if we can get into Europe one year, that would be the dream, because we've never done that. If Smith had scored at Wembley in '83, we might have had 1 year in Europe many years ago. But that's the closest we've come so far. Could we get closer? Could we get that extra step this year? Potentially. Just as easily, we could finish in lower mid-table very easily. It's a delicate flower, isn't it, the Premier League, with anyone outside the top 6. Yeah. You only have to have one bad run and then nothing particularly good the other way, and you're talking lower down the table again. But we're delighted. We're loving it. We're loving him. We're loving Graeme, and we think the thing you said about the England job, I remember your conversation with it before, Chris. I think it would be too early for him. I think he would think it would be too early for him if he was offered it, because I think, these guys, they're very intelligent. They want to work with players day to day. They want to establish their reputation at club level, because that's the meat and bone, isn't it? And it would be just too early. I don't think it would be the right time for him. He would want to carry on with Brighton for some time to come, unless a better club job came along that tempted him. What that would be, who knows? I think we're talking really big 6 only now would tempt him away. I can't say for sure. If a Villa came along, apparently I think he is a Villa fan. Villa might be looking for a new manager soon. Would that tempt him? Maybe. But outside of that, I think we're talking the top 6. But one thing to mention...
Can I just say that you did scare me then when you were saying there, when you said all Brighton fans. I'm thinking, he's our player. Come on. I'm trying here.
Although for a namesake, that would be a great signing for all Brighton, for Brighton, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to give myself one of these.
Too right, Chris. I was going to say we played Forest Green Rovers in midweek, the week before last in the League Cup, and they had a March and a McAllister, and they got stick from us, putting on the wrong shirts and so on. But if you take out the other home nations and just stick with English managers / coaches, he was top. He was the highest ranked English manager in terms of position in the table. So if you were looking for an English manager from the FA's point of view, you're probably looking at him and Howe as the obvious ones, aren't you, I guess?
Yeah.
If you're looking for an English manager, unless we're going back in time and getting old Hippo Allardyce or somebody.
But Brad, I mean, something that Russell said there, that, Graeme, he doesn't have necessarily a plan B up front, but he does for the rest of the pitch. But everybody goes on, and I mean, I was what a great coach Brendan is. And I was watching the game on BT last night for the watch along, and Robbie Savage said, like, this team without Brendan Rodgers would definitely get relegated. Some might say this team with Brendan Rodgers will get relegated. But he's supposed to be this such fantastic coach that everybody looks up and says, oh, God, they're lucky to have him. And yet he has, in the past 18 months, 2 seasons, he's been out-tacticked by Graeme Potter. He's been out-tacticked by Ralph Hussenhall. He's been out-tacticked by Steven Gerrard. He's been out-tacticked by Mikel Arteta. I could go on, and I'm not even including the top 6 clubs managers. If he's that good, why are all these other managers out thinking him when it comes to tactics?
Maybe, just maybe, and I might sound still a little bit bitter about last night here, but maybe some of the things that Russell says that his wonderful manager does with, I don't know, changing tactics and making substitutions and using the full force of the bench might help that situation. I mean, our manager's got it in his head that because there's 5 substitutes, you have to make them as late as physically possible. But I don't know, Chris. I don't know. Maybe if he wasn't a stubborn mule with the way he goes about things and he actually mixed things up on the pitch, you can forgive if you only play one strike up front and you can't really do much about that apart from a like for like. You can forgive that if, like you say, I don't know, you change something on the pitch to make your opponents actually do something different. Maybe that would make him do his job better. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm talking out my arse, but it sounds like this Graeme Potter's got a clue what he's doing.
No, I mean, we agree on this point. I knew what answer was coming there, which was why I asked it. But the window is now shut, and I can hear thunder at my end, so we're actually going to have some rain. I'm looking at your ins here, Russell, and we'll talk about yours first because ours won't last very long, will it? In fairness, Brad, but there's some you've made some good. I mean, Billy Gilmore, you must be pleased with that.
Yeah, it's not the position we were looking to fill particularly, although you're always looking to improve on what you got. But we were fairly well fleshed out in midfielders, although, as I said, Lallana's got injured, so there's probably room again now. We're really happy with that, though. We think he was a good player. Someone made a point, one of the Albion fans, Brighton fans, said that he was man of the match on his Premier League debut, FA Cup debut, Champions League debut, and Scotland debut. I know that's just one match in each case, but he has been impressive, hasn't he? He was the best player on the pitch when we played Scotland last year, wasn't it?
I mean, 10 million. I mean, yeah. I mean, we paid more than that for Vestergaard.
I think that's a bargain, really. And Graeme Potter's very good at developing players. That's his modus operandi. He loves working with the younger players and vetting them in, which was the contrast with Chris Hughton, who was the complete opposite, actually, in that regard. And I think it's a good fit, actually, because I think his career's gone off the rails a little bit because he went on loan to Norwich. Let's face it, Norwich were pretty terrible, unfortunately, last season. He only played 24 games, apparently, anyway, last year. I think that includes sub-appearances. So he didn't really get the run out. He's playing with lesser players who are out of form and on a downer and everything else. And he had a whole season of that, and obviously not much doing so far this season. So it's probably a change that he needs. It's not far to come down. He's going to work with a progressive coach, so we'll give him a chance. He will get game time, and I think it's a really good fit. We're delighted with that. The other signings, I think, obviously we've got in Estepinian, who's come in for Cucurella, he's not as good. He will get better than he is, and he's all right so far. I'm happy with him. Disappointed to lose Cucurella, but he's an able deputy, so to speak. Beyond that, it's kind of planning for the future signings. We've got a guy called Dingra who's gone out on loan to Tony Bloom's other club, Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium, who won the league period of the season in Belgium before they have those stupid playoffs afterwards. And they were the best team, and we have three of our players loaned to them last year. Mitoma, who I mentioned earlier, we had a guy called Kozlovsky, who's an attacking midfielder, and Dennis Undav, who's a striker, in a similar mould to Morpay. So we kind of replace Morpay in advance in that regard. They're all in the team now, and Adingra's gone out on loan as a replacement for them. Those three players that have now come in are effectively new signings, even though we've had them for a year elsewhere. And I think they're going to work well. They're youngish players. It's the typical formula we go to. Exciting players, cheaper, that we could develop and sell if we need to sell, make into better players. Lots of sale value because they're younger. They'll be in their 20s somewhere or less. We signed a couple of other kids. I can't remember the names offhand. We haven't done a huge amount of incoming business, but I'm pretty happy with what we've done.
I'm glad you mentioned most of them because I couldn't pronounce them.
Well, there's that. I think Welbeck, we could do with another Welbeck type player as backup to Welbeck. That's the only issue. We could have done with another signing. But actually, we've got this young lad, Evan Ferguson, who's a 17-year-old Irishman. He made his full debut at Forest Green and scored the third goal. With a pretty nice little touch, actually, a single touch close into goal. They're rating him really highly for the future. It's probably too early for this season, so I would have liked someone to come in there. But other than that,
Brad, we were talking, with Billy Gilmore. I wouldn't have minded seeing him. I don't know if you would or not, or could we not have included him as part of the Fofana deal?
Look, he's a great youngster. I think you saw that when you send a youngster that's used to working with high caliber of players to a team that's barely a championship standard, you're not going to get the best out of them. I don't know if he was brought in by Dean Smith or Mr. German Sausage, but neither of them could seemingly get the best out of him. But we've seen that he can do well. Like Russell mentioned there, his debuts have always caught the eye. Maybe you should just tell him every game's a debut. You might get the best performance out of him every week. But sometimes, you can look at talent and you can kind of just say, well, yeah, he is talented. But to kind of say what Russell said about Brighton, you could argue that with us. Our youth academy and products we've been bringing through are very well renowned. Chelsea know all about them. They add them to their sticker collection when they get too old. But we do that. We bring up youth. They're getting into our squad. And it's probably an area we're actually overflowing in terms of Pratt, Ndidi, Samori, Mendy, Maddison, Tillemans. There's probably others that are interchangeable to go into 10 position because Brendan likes to try and make his players versatile. But that's 7 centre midfielders or players that play in and around that area. As it is, I do think he's a talent, but I do actually agree that he's better to go to a team like Brighton where the depth's needed, because I'm not trying to jinx it for Brighton fans, but thinking ahead for them, that Moises Caicedo looks like a really quality talent. And I'm sure Potter won't like to admit it, but he's probably already thinking, well, next summer we might end up losing some of that quality if we don't get that.
It's all about succession planning. We're very big on succession planning, and Caicedo was the plan for Bissouma. We knew Bissouma wanted to go. We persuaded him to stay for another 18 months in segmented times on the basis that, look, we'll give us another year. We just need to develop this guy a bit longer, and then you can go with our blessing. You get your move. The development's there. It'll attract other players to come in because they know that pathway is still there. We're not going to resist it. But it's succession planning. So Caicedo's in position. So when Bissouma's come out, he's already made a handful of games and he can settle in. And you're right, he's not going to be with us too long. He's too good. He's so good. I can't begin to describe it. Having seen him last season as well, he just hit the ground running as well. On his debut. It just looked like he'd been there for years. And
just in case you wondered where I'd gone to, by the way, then I had to go and answer the door because I have got the Guinness Book of Records just standing by off camera here, because I think we could actually be about to hear the shortest answer that Brad has ever given when I ask him, what did you think of our transfer window, Brad?
Yeah.
Can I just say, by the way, if I was a Leicester City fan, I'd love to sit next to or stand next to Brad at games. He sounds pretty entertaining with the rants. I've loved the Euro rant earlier. It was brilliant.
He's quite a quiet and shy and retiring human being normally.
The football won't matter, will it, if you're next to him? It'll be great.
I mean, forgetting Smithers, because let's face it, Brad, he'll probably never see the light of day. I'm sure Jupokovic was actually a Romanian vampire because we only ever saw him after the odd night game. But Smithers is there. We know he's literally there just in case, sort of thing. We did manage one signing, who actually, I've got to be honest with you, I'm quite pleased with. I think we've actually possibly upgraded from what we had before, certainly in the maturity stakes. And he cried when he knew we were interested in him. Now, whether that was tears of fear and didn't want to come, or I don't know.
I mean, I don't know what radio stations they've put up in Belgium that apparently him and his wife heard about it when they were out and cried to joy of it. But look, it's lovely to see. It's such. It kind of came at the right time, didn't it? After you get rid of a player that causes you nothing but grief, it seems, and there's a lot of turmoil around him at the club and the transferring out of the club, as it turned out to be. It was very nice that the player comes in and he gives such a heartwarming interview. We don't know how good he is. We don't know if we've yet again got another absolute diamond who's going to be just as good or as high as quality as you're going to get to Fofana. We don't know. He might not even be that type of defender. Fofana, as much as I hate how he's left the club, we know he has an electric pace. He's so confident on the ball. We don't know if this guy is a no-nonsense defender. We'll see. Hopefully he'll no-nonsense us into our first 3 points against Brighton. Sorry, Russell, we really need them.
He's a Belgium international. And when you look at what, the team and the captain of, he was the captain of his team, but his manager and the owner of the club that he's left has been saying about him, it sounds like, we've struck gold. And I'm not going to say go and watch his YouTube highlights because they never put any downlights on the videos, do they? But, fingers crossed for him. And he should make it, we'll come on to team news now, actually, because, and then we'll have a look at some score predictions. Russell, looking at Brighton team news, you remain without Adam Lallana.
Yeah, he's out till October, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Adam Lallana injured. Who knew, eh?
I'm still reeling for the shock,
Yeah. I can remember me when I really wanted him when he became free, but I'm honest with you, I think we've got Ryan Bertrand's filled that sick note role very well. Thank you very much. But Billy Gilmore could make his debut, which I hope he doesn't, because, like you said, he always does. Always does well. Gilmore is available following moves from Chelsea. Veltman is fit, but the game could come too soon for Sarmiento, despite his return to training. Does that kind of sum Brighton up at the moment?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, at the moment. Veltman had a little bit of a neck injury. He did play the next game, so I think, as far as we know, unless there's been any reactions, he'll be in. We've got Colwell's the other guy. Actually, very rarely we loan in a player. I think part of our deal actually for Cucurella was to get Colwell on a loan fee-free arrangement. So we got him where others were about to pay a loan fee. Whether he'll play, because he's not really featured yet, I'm not sure. But it'll probably be Veltman, Duncan, Webster, with wide, probably wing backs of one sort or another. Probably it's going to be Solly March and either Trossard playing as a wing back, which he has been doing on some occasions, or we just go with Estupiñán, who's I think still learning the game, and I think we'd like to keep giving him games at the moment. So probably it'll be Estupiñán with March as wing backs in that situation, or a back four. yeah, what you've said about availability is correct. Sarmiento, really exciting young prospect, but he's had a couple of injuries, unfortunately, which is hindering him. I don't think he'll be ready for a while. Billy Gilmore, I mean, Graeme Potter doesn't tend to rush people in when they're signed. You know, he signed well ahead of the deadline, so he's available. But I think he might come on as a substitute, possibly. But I could see him getting his debut against Bournemouth, something like that. We got quite settled in midfield.
South Coast Derby there. South Coast Derby back.
Yeah, they're the one Sky seem to think is a big rivalry. I don't know why. Like any South Coast game, it is a little bit. It's like a London one.
It suits their narrative, doesn't it? But Brad,
exactly.
I mean, we're going to pick our team in a minute when we've let Russell go. But I mean, Wout Weghorst could make his debut. I think he should make his debut. He was playing up until he came to us, so it was not like he's got to get up to fitness. But we've got 3 defenders that are out. Piera that we know about. Bertrand, well, we just don't expect to ever see him again. Do you know what I mean?
No.
And Daniel Amati, apparently, according to Sky, is out. So it's going to either be Soyuncu or Faze, hasn't it?
Well, it's not going to be Soyuncu. I will tell you that. It just won't be Soyuncu because he's fallen out of love with him. He's talked about his fault being bad for a while, which is why Amati got the nod last season, and why Amati, you know, as well as playing well, to be fair, you know, that's why Amati kept his position and has continued to keep it until his illness. You know, at the start of the season. Look, it's not by any means. This isn't one of them where we're never going to see him play again. The window's closed. He gets his head right. He gets his head down. We'll probably get him into the team to feature, but it's not going to be Soyuncu that gets into that back line 4 for me. Wout is going to get the chance. Wout is going to get the chance to impress. He's going to get the chance to kind of steady the ship. And if anything that Ray's saying that he said about him is true, then it's just such a shame we can't beat the first one corners, because if it's a beast from headers, we're going to beat you 6-0 because they'll get an end of every one of them. But luckily for Brighton, we can't beat the first man or we cross it to your goalkeeper. So at least I have that to worry about. But yeah, I'm sure Brendan will want the Sideshow Bob Hare to cushion the ball away from our goal as often as possible.
Yeah. Well, going on to his core predictions, then this is what the Xbox League, which I've currently got 1 point, but I'm not bottom at the moment. I'm pleased to say. This is what we've gone for. I think this is the game we need to sort of start a run in. So sorry, Russell, but I've gone, as you know, 2-0 to Leicester. Craig has gone 1-1. Jerry Taggart's gone 1-1. Steve Walsh has gone. Hang on, I've gone wrong here. 1, 2, 3. I've missed somebody out. Well, I know Ian Wilson's gone 2-2. Ian Marshall has gone. Actually, it's not shown on there, but 1-1. Steve Linux has gone 1-2, and Steve Walsh Joe Taggart has gone 1-1. What are you going for, Brad?
Look, my Leicester heart says that Leicester are going to win 1-0. But honestly, you went through our next 5 fixtures, so I'm going to stand by what I said there. Honestly, the way we're playing at the moment, the way it's going, Brighton are going to win 2-0.
Oh, wow. Okay. I think you're going to have somebody that agrees with you here, Russell.
Yeah. I'm going to go 2-0 as well. I'm not completely brashly confident about it because, as I said on our pod earlier, Chris, we're a bit weird at home. We're better away from home. I think we were 4th best in the Premier League last season away from home, and at home we were very distinctly average, to say the least. We've solved that towards the end of last season. This season we've started the way we did most of last season. Dominated against Newcastle, got a draw. Dominated against Leeds, just scraped the win. We should be beating those 2 teams with the performances we put in those games. So I'm a little bit apprehensive, but I do think things might gel a little bit more. We've got a bounce back thing with Fulham maybe as well. Disappointing performance. We fiddle about with the formula. I think Danny Welbeck will come back in this game. We have been playing very well at home, despite the results. and apart from the finishing. But I think we might just click and get it right again this week. I fear for you guys, you might have to wait another week. I'm often wrong though, but I'm going to go 2-0.
I hope you are. Russell, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Can I just quickly say as well, Ray asked a question earlier about Trossard. Is he underrated? I think he is, but I think it's partly because he's still a bit inconsistent, so people don't rave about him as much as they might do. But he's a really good quality player. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No, not at all. No, it's a pleasure having you on. I think that's probably all we're going to see of each other now for the weekend. But,
we'll do it all again in a minute.
Yes, but thank you so much for coming on. Again,
No
your link is in the description below on YouTube. Your podcasts are where my podcasts are. Obviously, we share that stream. But where can people find you?
Yeah, just any good or bad platforms for podcasts. It's basically there. I don't do any video content online. It's all just audio. So it's really just those platforms. Or you can look us up on Twitter at Brighton Rock Pod. Same address for the Instagram as well. That's basically it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I won't say good luck because I won't mean it.
No.
But I will say thank you very much for coming on, and we'll probably speak for the return fixture later in the year.
Brilliant. Cheers. And thanks for that. And good to meet you, Brad.
And you, mate. Nice to meet you.
Brilliant.
Keep ranting.
All the best, mate. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Cheers. Thanks to Russell there for coming on. A really, really, really nice guy. Go and check his podcast out. Like I said, the link is below. Terry's off. I thought I could smell you, Terry. Brad, now, are you ready to pick your team?
Yeah.
We'll do it straight after this.
Broadcasting live worldwide.
Watch us on YouTube
Listen on your favorite podcast platform
or ask your smart speaker
to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
Give me 5 from Leicester Till I Die TV.
Join in as we look at the good, the bad, and even the ugly.
Leicester City. The Leicester Till I Die shop is now open.
For all your Leicester Till I Die merchandise,
Visit the Leicester Till I Die shop at our website.
Right, and just to say, Brad, this is your team, your selection, but just in case, of course, don't forget I do have this available to you. So be warned. Now, this is very much not what you think Brendan will go for, because God knows who he'll go for, let's be honest with you. He'll probably play Fraser up front for all we know. This is what you think we should go for, what you want us to go for, and also the players that you would put in that formation. So first of all, what formation would you go for?
I would play a 4-3-1-2.
Okay, and I do hope I have got that.
It's what I call the fancy Mike Bassett. Yeah, that's for me. That works.
There we go. That's it. Now I'm guessing we're going to start with a very easy one, obviously in goal, and I'm guessing you go for Danny Ward.
Yes, I will be putting Danny Ward in goal. I know people are already losing faith and losing their minds after one Carling Cup performance, but I have to remind people that Schmeichel wasn't brilliant in his first season and a bit at Leicester, and he took a while. We have to stick behind Ward. He's always going to get featured. So I'm happy to stick with Ward.
Yes, indeed. No, I agree totally. It was Stockport United, guys. Come on, and he only had 4 shots.
County.
Yeah. Okay. Left defence. Who are we going to go for there, sir?
Now, I might not be a manager, but I'm going to do something that might help people pick up gift ideas for Brendan, because clearly he can't put the right people in the right corners. Get him jigsaws, because I'm going to put James Justin on the left.
No.
I know. Call me crazy. We've got a left-sided player on the left. I know it sounds unheard of, but maybe if Brendan could put his jigsaw corners in the right position, he'd figure out how to do it on them. I'm going James Justin on the left. I'm going for centre-back pairing. This is easy.
Go for right back first
right
of all. Yeah.
Again, right, brace yourselves. I'm going to use a right back. at right back, right? And Timothy Castagne. I know, shock horror. I'm putting right back at right back. It's breaking the modern day, but I'm going to put Castagne at right back. That's
you know what I
who
mean? You
would
are putting round pegs in round holes here.
the Illuminati, they watch. They'll see this
That's
and they'll be
true.
tested away.
That is very true, sir. That is very true. On the right of the two centre backs.
Now, I don't know what footed he is or what preferred side
No,
he is.
I've got to be totally honest with you. I was hoping you did because I have no clue whatsoever. Let me have a look at what it says on his Wikipedia page.
I would assume with who I'm going to put next to him and where he prefers to play there, this is going to be where Wout or Vout, or however you want to pronounce it, or you're supposed to pronounce it, Fez is going to be my right centre back. Whether he's preferred on the left, I don't know how interchangeable Johnny Evans is on that part, but he's been doing it recently, so he might be. But I would have him on the right because, well, it doesn't matter because the partner on him predominantly plays on the left-hand side of a centre-back pairing anyway. So even if he can't play it, I wouldn't switch. I wouldn't weaken Evans. But then, I don't know. Come on. Tell you what, folks. I was asked to make sure I had this all ready, so there was no slowing down and Chris doing it. Look at him. Here he is, folks. On his Wikipedia, can't even find out what foot he is. Gordon Bennett.
I have found out he's right-footed.
Say do that, Chris. I've tested you. Hold on, pass test. Yeah,
just as you spoke then, centre back, right. Well, yeah, it says right-footed there. So now the problem we've got, of course, is now I don't know if he's going to come up. So you're going for him on the right, yes?
Yes, I am.
Now let's just have a look. Yeah, there he goes.
There he is.
Not in Leicester, but he's still there. Good to see you. Welcome to the club. Good luck.
Yeah.
And then the
Evans,
other one, then
you've got to have the captain. Evans is going to play alongside him. When he's fit, he's the first choice, and I think Leicester fans knowing that every time he's out, Evans is just going to partner and fill up that midfield.
Yes, I think. How much did we pay for Face?
15 million.
Oh, they got him here as value as 11. So yeah.
Well,
euros. So
you know what they say. That's the full price. So
yeah. That's fine. He's quite tall, 6'1".
Yeah.
He's not fit. Just a shame he's not left-footed. He would have been perfect. Okay.
Well,
that holding centre midfield role.
Now this will surprise you, and I'm probably going to get.
I don't think you will actually. If you are half the man, I think you are, and I think you're more than half the man. I think you're possibly 3/4 of the man. I think you are. I think that I know who you might be going for here.
Well, this is going to cause chaos then, isn't it? Because I don't think you're on the same thinking as me. And it's a player that we all thought wouldn't kick a ball again for Leicester. And I'm actually, now, hear me out, I'm going to go for Samore.
Yeah, I knew you were.
Wow. I thought you'd be thinking I'd go for in terms of Ndidi. But there's nothing against Ndidi. The lad's impressed me. He impressed me against Chelsea. And even when we were lackluster, he was still flying in trying to win that ball in the middle. He impressed me in a very difficult game against Manchester United. And I think he warrants keeping his place in the squad.
Yeah. No, I think he is doing very well. And I have to say, I found this out the other day. Samore, as in Babuku, or it was called Samore, does not exist on this app. And therefore, that I know before anybody says that isn't our Samore. I know it isn't, but he's got the same name. So he does the job. He does the job. Even at Lille, he wasn't, he's not in there. I don't know what. But anyway, so no, I agree with you. I don't think that he's done anything to not be included. He's played no worse than anybody else. Yeah,
and I certainly, given the power that I'm being given here in fictional terms, I would never play two central defensive midfielders. So, spoiler alert, he ain't getting in the team any other way if thinking I'm going to get him in there.
Yeah.
It's
Praise and
more-
Soyuncu says Ray. He says Evans is too slow. You see, what for me, Ray, and I don't know, Brad might disagree with me here. It's very easy to mix up slow with experience,
Mhm.
and that when when we haven't got Johnny Evans, we know last season when Johnny Evans wasn't in that defence, which he wasn't for a lot of the season, we did not play as well. That's why we had Fofana, the young 19-year-old who would run round and run his balls off, and Evans would just sit there. And I know, Craig said, "Oh yeah, all he does is stand on the ball." Well, he's actually looking what he can do with it. Can he hoof it upfield and get a break on, or is that not possible? Who can I play it to at the side of me? I've got a guest coming on Monday, Tony Cottee, and I'm really looking forward to speaking to him. And when he played alongside Emil Heskey. You may remember him, Brad. You may remember him.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Do you know what Tony Cottee said? He said, "I've not got the legs that I used to have, but I've still got the footballing brain. But then I don't need the legs because I've got Emil Heskey that does that for me. He will run. I will get into the position I need to get in, and boom, it's a goal." Obviously, we're talking defence here, but that is exactly the same. So don't mistake slow with being awful. Slow can be he's using his head,
And yet again, as if I'm acting here on behalf of Evans as his lawyer, to everybody who keeps moaning and saying that Johnny Evans is too slow, go and watch the highlights. Cast your memory back to the last game that you went to where Evans played, right, this season, and remind yourself when you had that moment where you got out your seat and Leicester looked aggressive, was it when we were passing it side to side, or was it when all of a sudden the ball went from the 18-yard box out wide to Castagne or Perez or Barnes? I can guarantee you against Manchester United, the only time you found yourself heading out towards the seat, apart from to leave the game early, was because Evans spreaded a 35-yard pass out. Take him for his experience. You weren't moaning at Huth when he was doing absolute bits at back, being in his mid-30s. We weren't moaning at Wes Morgan when he was playing at the back in his mid-30s. We weren't moaning at Matt Elliott in the 90s when he was playing. I'm not saying he was that old, but he God help him. He's been bold and looked about 80 since in the air department since about 12, bless him. But
I totally agree with you there.
Stop playing this. He's too slow. No, he's doing his job because, like you literally said, perfect example with Cottee and Heskey. Well, if this Val or Wow is a quick lightning player that's going to do all that running back and he can sweep it up, make up for any mistakes that are made, and he can ping a pass 30 yards, I'm well happy for Evans to be on our starting 11.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he's never left the Premier League.
Yeah. Moving on, left centre midfield.
Kieran Dewsbury Hall goes on the left for me.
Definitely. Although, again, still look one of the players most likely to against Man United.
Yeah.
Now definitely. Then, on the right here, I know who I would go for, but who would you go for?
I'm going to say this, and I've said this a few times in the show. These two players give me the Gerrard and Lampard feeling. They cannot work on the same pitch together. People might be expecting Yori. It ain't Yori. He might have had a good game against Chelsea, and he wasn't exactly bad, but he wasn't exactly noticeable against Manchester United, to think, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And for me, it's Dennis Pratt.
As I agreed with you there, because I've got him in ready for you, sir.
Yeah, I just
100% agree. Yeah. We know it won't happen because he doesn't look Brendan's arse like Yori does. But I mean, when he won't pick Soyuncu because he doesn't want players that want, he won't pick players that want to leave the club, and yet he's picking Yori every week. My God, what's going on? But no, I agree. Pratt's done absolutely nothing wrong, and to my mind, he's in better form at the moment.
Yeah, and now speaking of the Steven Gerrard and Lampard problem that these two have, I am, however, going to give Maddison that attacking centre mid role, because out of the two of them, he's never one that we question his performance when the two of them start. He was like Dewsbury Hall. He was running at them. He was mixed, twisting and turning. He was winning free kicks, doing his clever little things that he does to win these set pieces. He came the closest to scoring, and I thought he was going to put it straight down. I remember that free kick was out straight down the keeper's throat. It almost caught me off guard when De Gea tips it round for a corner. He has to be in this team. He deserves to be in this team, and that's why he's made my team.
Yeah. Daka up front or Vardy? I mean, I put Daka in there because I've got a feeling that's where you are going, but...
Yeah, I would go with Daka. I think the reverse of how Brendan's doing it needs to be done. I think Vardy should be taking 20 minutes a game, if that, and Daka should be given the full license to run in behind. I think he's less obvious. I think he's got a bit more pace. He's kind of like Jamie Vardy 3 years ago, with not just because he's a lot younger, but everybody always said about Jamie is it's easy to know what he's going to do. It's stopping that's a problem. And I think this year it's become a little bit easier to stop the train of Jamie Vardy. And I think if I was a manager now, I'd be making that change. I'd have Daka in there. And we might as well just say it, because you've picked the man who's obviously going to go up there. He drops deep. He plays a false nine. He reminds me this season of Shinji Okazaki in terms of he'll come deep, he'll work his knackers off to get the ball, and he'll try and get the ball to Vardy or Daka. It's going to be Iheanacho alongside Daka for me, just for that reason.
He creates that link between the midfield and the striker. And yes, I agree. Vardy, he cannot... I mean, he played on Thursday night, for God's sake. The guy's going to be knackered. And if he... And I love Vardy to bits, and we all love Vardy to bits. And I've been saying for the last couple of seasons that he will end up being the super sub, the guy that comes on, that when, with the 20 minutes and the defence is knackered, you think, my God, thank God Daka's coming off, and oh shit, Vardy's coming on. That is going to be his role, and I think it's coming because he's not making the runs he used to. He obviously hasn't necessarily got the speed that he's used to. But then again, are we playing to his strengths? Who knows? Brad, we're going to call it an end there because we are going to be back at 9 o'clock, are we not? Yes,
less than 45 minutes. It's the opposite of going in for half time. We're going for a 45-minute break, and we're back at 9 for another debate show.
We are. It's question time Q&A, and I'm sure. Well, I am sure because I'm going to. I'm getting the question, but we're going to start off with the FFP and Leicester City, and has it maybe, like we've said before, just shown us maybe. Oh, that's why, sort of thing.
Yeah. Can I just say quickly, Chris? Can I just say, Brendan, if you are watching, I hope you go back and watch me a tactical analysis of how crap you're doing with the team. But if you pick this team, we're going to win at the weekend. If you pick this team, that team that we've just taken off the screen, if you pick that 11, we'll actually win at the weekend.
Yeah, we will indeed. And Brad, your YouTube channel, is a matter of opinion, which is all about having an opinion. And it's a great show. Get over there and check him out, guys. The link to that is in the description below in the YouTube channel, description as well. Brad, I will see you in 42 minutes. Take care, buddy. Thanks very much.
I'll see you there, mate. No worries.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Thanks to Brad. We will be back at 9 o'clock. We'll be joined by David, and it is question time. So you set the questions, you set the agenda. I always set the first question just to get the ball rolling, and it was all going to be about the FFP revelations. I posted it in Facebook. I posted it on Twitter. It's almost like a light bulb moment. My thanks to Russell for joining us. My thanks to Brad for coming on as well. Check those guys out. Give them your support. And I will see you back here at 9. Thanks for watching. And if you have been listening on your favourite podcast platform, thank you for lending me your ears. See you later.
That's all, folks.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
This week's episode has come to an end. But the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. us next time.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
Leicester Till I Die TV